something strange is happening. We live in the most connected age in human history. At any moment, you can speak to someone across the world, share your thoughts with thousands, even millions, in a matter of seconds. Notifications light up your screen, voices fill your ears, faces flash across your phone. And yet, we've never felt more alone. This isn't just a passing mood. It's deeper than that. It's not just emotional. It's existential, like a quiet emptiness gnawing at the edges of your life. You can't quite explain it, but you feel it in crowded rooms, in late-night scrolling, in the silence between messages that never come. We've become experts in connection and amateurs in meaning. So what happened? This isn't a new question. In fact, one man saw this coming over 100 years ago, a man who warned that modern life would strip us of our purpose, our values, and eventually, our very selves. His name was Friedrich Nietzsche, and his philosophy wasn't just about suffering, morality. It was about loneliness, the kind that creeps in not when you're alone, but when the world around you feels empty, synthetic, hollow. In this video, we'll explore how loneliness became a defining condition of modern life, and how, in Nietzsche's eyes, it was both a warning and a test. Because maybe loneliness isn't just a problem. Maybe it's a message. 2. Nietzsche's warning, the collapse of meaning. Nietzsche was not just a philosopher. He was an expert of decline. He saw a world drifting into chaos, not because of war or famine, but because of something far more invisible, the slow erosion of meaning. In his time, society was changing rapidly. Old traditions were dissolving. Institutions once seen as sacred were cracking. People were gaining more freedom. But with that freedom came a silent cost: disorientation, emptiness, isolation. Nietzsche understood something most people didn't want to face. When the structures that once guided us begin to fall apart, we don't become stronger. At least, not at first. We become lost. He spoke of a world where people no longer knew why they lived, only that they existed, where they filled their days with comfort, distraction, and shallow entertainment, but avoided the deeper questions. Who am I? What am I meant to become? He warned us of a type of person who would emerge in this vacuum, a figure he called the last man. The last man doesn't dream. He doesn't strive. He's content with being average. His life is predictable, safe, painless, and profoundly empty. He avoids conflict, avoids growth, avoids truth, and in doing so, he avoids himself. This is the loneliness Nietzsche feared most, not just being cut off from others, but being cut off from becoming, from evolving, from confronting the chaos inside, from creating something real in a world that prefers comfort over courage. In Nietzsche's eyes, the future wouldn't be destroyed by fire or blood, but by a quiet plague of meaninglessness, a world full of people who feel alone, not because they have no one, but because they've forgotten who they're meant to be. 3. The history of being alone, from tribe to individualism. Loneliness wasn't always a part of the human condition. For most of our history, we didn't even have a word for it, because we didn't need one. We lived in tribes, in villages, in close-knit communities where survival meant connection. Identity came from being part of something larger than yourself. You hunted together, built together, suffered together. You belonged, but something changed. As society evolved, so did our sense of self. Cities replaced villages, industry replaced tradition, and slowly, the individual began to take center stage. We were told this was freedom, and in many ways, it was. The power to choose your own path, your own beliefs, your own future. But freedom has a shadow, because when you break away from the group, you also break away from the certainty, the warmth, the structure it provides. What was once a collective journey became a solitary one, and not everyone was ready to walk it alone. Nietzsche saw this transformation happening in real time. He watched society trade belonging for autonomy, unity for progress, and meaning for distraction. He understood that loneliness isn't just emotional, it's historical, a byproduct of civilization itself. We've become strangers, not only to one another, but to the very rhythm of life we were built for. And the modern world only accelerated this. Now, we live in high-rises, surrounded by thousands, and still feel invisible. We scroll through hundreds of faces a day, yet forget what a real connection feels like. We're constantly connected, yet internally disconnected from community, from purpose, and from ourselves. What used to bind us has been replaced by glass screens, individual timelines, and algorithmic attention. We've become the most autonomous generation in history, and the most isolated. Nietzsche didn't just mourn the loss of community. He challenged us to confront what comes next. 4. The inner desert. Psychological dimensions of loneliness. Loneliness isn't just something you feel, it's something you become. It begins subtly. Missed messages, an empty weekend, the quiet tension of not being seen. But over time, it seeps into the fabric of your mind. It shapes how you see yourself, how you think others see you. And worst of all, it starts to feel permanent. Psychologists describe chronic loneliness as a slow-burning trauma, one that doesn't just affect your mood, but rewires your brain. It blurs the line between rejection and perception. You start to assume disconnection, even where none exists. Every silence feels personal, every look judgmental. You withdraw, not because you want to, but because you're trying to protect what's left. But Nietzsche would say something deeper is at play. He believed that the real fear of loneliness isn't about being without others. It's about being left alone with yourself. Because when the noise stops, when there's no one left to impress, no scroll to numb the mind, what's left? Just you and the things you've been avoiding, the regrets, the questions, the inner chaos. Nietzsche didn't see solitude as a punishment, but as a mirror most people are terrified to face. Because in that silence, you confront your shadow, the parts of yourself that are angry, bitter, ashamed, the parts you've buried beneath status updates and surface-level smiles. But there's something else in that silence, too. Potential. Because only in confronting the void within can we begin to understand what we're actually missing. Not just connection with others, but connection with our own truth, our real values, our real desires. Most people don't feel lonely because they're surrounded by no one. They feel lonely because they're surrounded by everything except what truly matters. 5. Loneliness in the age of noise, media, illusion, and manufactured connection. If loneliness is the wound, the modern world is the salt. We live in a constant storm of information. Ads, videos, memes, messages, flashing across our screens faster than we can think. It's a world designed to distract us, not connect us. And somewhere in all that noise, the signal was lost. Social media promised us connection. And at first, it felt like magic. You could talk to friends, share ideas, be seen. But over time, something shifted. The platforms got smarter, the algorithms sharper, and suddenly we weren't the users anymore. We were the product. Every like became a little hit of dopamine. Every share, a microdose of validation, but none of it was real. It didn't nourish us. It didn't challenge us. It didn't see us. Nietzsche would have seen this for what it is: a mass seduction, a culture of performance, a society addicted to shallow appearances over deep authenticity. We curate our lives like brands. We present versions of ourselves polished to perfection, but hollow at the core. And the more we feed the illusion, the more disconnected we become from who we actually are. This isn't connection. It's simulation. We have thousands of followers, but no one to call. We share everything and feel understood by no one. We perform intimacy while starving for it. Even our emotions have become data points, sold, tracked, monetized. Loneliness itself has become a market. And the worst part, many don't even realize it's happening. They think they're connected. They think they're seen. But deep down, there's a silence growing, a creeping emptiness that all the scrolling can't fill. Nietzsche warned of a life built on distraction, a herd that avoids discomfort at all costs. But he also believed that through that discomfort, through that isolation, something stronger could be born, but only if we're brave enough to unplug from the illusion and sit in the silence long enough to hear the truth. 6. The loneliness of the strong, Nietzsche's Übermensch, and the price of awakening. There is a kind of loneliness that breaks you, and then there's a kind that builds you. Nietzsche didn't just diagnose the emptiness of modern life. He offered a response, a challenge, a vision of what one could become if they were willing to walk alone, to face the abyss, and to not flinch. He called it the Übermensch, the overman, not a superhero, not a conqueror, but someone who dares to create meaning in a world where none is given. But the path to becoming such a person is brutal, because to create your own values, you must first destroy the borrowed ones. You must unlearn the comforting lies of culture, religion, media, everything you were told to believe without question. And that process, it's lonely, terrifyingly so. This is not the loneliness of neglect or rejection. It's the loneliness of awakening. The Übermensch doesn't seek validation, doesn't crave approval. They are not immune to suffering. They walk straight into it. Because in Nietzsche's world, suffering is not the enemy. It's the crucible. It's what burns away the shallow, the fake, the fragile. And in that fire, something real is forged. A self that is whole, independent, fierce, free. But freedom has a price. To be truly free means to live without guarantees. No one to blame, no one to follow, no authority to give your life meaning. Just you, and the raw responsibility of creating something out of nothing. That kind of existence can't be lived in the comfort of the herd. It demands distance, silence, solitude. Nietzsche didn't glorify suffering for its own sake. He saw it as the soil in which greatness grows. The Übermensch is not someone who escapes loneliness, but someone who masters it, who turns isolation into insight, who transforms the ache of disconnection into the fuel for becoming. Most people avoid the abyss. They cover it with noise, with pleasure, with lies. But the strong, the truly awake, they step into it, and they emerge, changed. 7. Echoes of emptiness, loneliness as a mirror of society. Not all loneliness comes from within. Sometimes it's a reflection of the world around us, a symptom, not a cause. Look closely, and you'll see it everywhere. In the design of our cities, in the layout of our schools and offices, in the endless stream of media telling us how to live, what to buy, and who to be. We weren't born broken. We were shaped this way by systems that separate more than they connect. The structure of modern life encourages isolation. We're taught to compete instead of collaborate, to commodify our identities, to view relationships through the lens of efficiency, status, and transaction. Even intimacy has been turned into a marketplace, optimized, swiped, filtered. And the result? A generation that's always on, yet feels invisible, surrounded, yet untouched, loud, yet unheard. Nietzsche would see this as a society that rewards conformity while punishing depth, a culture that tells you to be yourself, just not too much, not in a way that disturbs the pattern. So we adapt. We wear masks. We say the right things. We post the right pictures. We fit in. But underneath it all, the echo remains. Because real connection isn't found in appearances. It's found in truth, in vulnerability, in struggle, and most of what we're told to pursue, wealth, image, influence, pulls us further from that truth. Loneliness, then, is not just an emotion. It's a mirror, one that reflects not just who we are, but what we've allowed ourselves to become. The question is, will we look away, or will we face what the silence is trying to show us? 8. Final message. Embrace the abyss, but do not fall. So where does that leave us? Alone in a noisy world, disconnected in the age of connection, searching for something real in a reality designed to distract us. It's tempting to see loneliness as a flaw, a weakness, a personal failure to keep up with the world. But maybe it's none of that. Maybe loneliness is not the end, but the beginning. Nietzsche believed that only those who are willing to walk through the desert of isolation can reach the mountain of transformation. That solitude, though painful, is where the old self dies and the real self begins. It's not easy to sit in silence, to resist the pull of distraction, to stop pretending and finally ask, who am I, really, when no one is watching? That's the abyss he spoke of, the terrifying stillness where your illusions crumble and something truer can finally emerge. But here's the warning. Don't fall into it. Don't romanticize suffering. Don't mistake pain for purpose. Let the discomfort sharpen you. Let the silence teach you. Let the loneliness break the false parts of you so that the real ones can finally breathe. Because in a world that rewards noise, choosing to go quiet is an act of rebellion. In a world that sells illusion, seeking truth is an act of courage. And in a world where everyone is trying to be someone else, becoming yourself is the most radical thing you can do.